Thank you so much for joining us. This is All Angles. I'm Dion Jacksmiller. You know, Jamaicans were horrified to see the video being circulated of Latoya Bulgin, a woman in Granville, St. James, shot and killed by the police during a protest demonstration, or in relation to a protest demonstration, perhaps I should say. There are lots of issues that arise from that shooting that we're going to be talking about in the program this evening. First up, we have in studio with us family physician Dr. Mark Ricketts, who is going to be talking about some of the medical questions that people have been asking about. But you know, this is the third controversial police shooting in the community of Granville in less than 6 months. That's part of the reason people are so upset. So before we start discussion, Kemon White has this overview.
And this officer not supposed to go upon pure interdiction. If he fire from the force, and he must be charged for murder.
The killing of Latoya Bulgin by the police in Granville, St. James on Sunday has triggered widespread criticism and reignited long-standing tensions between residents and the security forces in the community. For many residents, the shooting is not an isolated incident. It was January 1 when 3 people, including a 4-year-old boy, were killed during a security operation in Granville, St. James. In a media release, the JCF said the shooting happened shortly after midnight on New Year's Day as members of a joint police-military team responded to reports of explosions, gunfire and illegal gun salutes in Browns Lane in Granville. According to the police, intelligence suggested that several individuals in the community were armed with prohibited weapons and intended to carry out illegal gun salutes. The JCF said the security forces came under gunfire upon arrival, took evasive action and returned fire. Police said 2 men were later found suffering from gunshot wounds and were pronounced dead at hospital, while a child who was injured during the incident later died while undergoing treatment. The incident sparked outrage across the community and raised the questions about the conduct of the police during operations. Then, just 5 months later, a 17-year-old boy was shot and killed by the police in the same community on Mother's Day, May 12. According to the police's account, about 6 a.m., members of a security team were in the area searching for wanted men. Upon leaving the community, they reportedly approached the teen and there was a confrontation during which the teen was shot. The police say a black Taurus G2C pistol with an affixed magazine containing 1 9mm round was taken from his body. But his mother and residents strongly disputed that version, claiming he had surrendered and was shot despite having his hands up. That incident further deepened fear and frustration among residents. And then just days later, the fatal shooting of Latoya Bulgin has raised those tensions to a boiling point. According to police reports, officers were in the process of dispersing protesters who were staging an unauthorized demonstration at Granville Square in St. James when they observed a black Toyota Voxy driven by Miss Bulgin, dropping off protesters. The protesters were demonstrating against the fatal shooting of the 17-year-old boy in the community. The police say the vehicle's registration plate was checked and it was discovered that the vehicle was unlicensed. A police constable approached Miss Bulgin, informed her of the finding, and told her that the vehicle would be seized. It is further reported that the constable sought and received permission from the duty officer to seize the vehicle. The police say Miss Bulgin uttered the words, "Me vehicle nah seized today. Me rather run this over one of uno and kill uno today." She then allegedly attempted to drive away, at which point the constable who was standing in front of the Voxy discharged 1 round in the direction of the vehicle. The vehicle later came to a stop. CCTV footage shows the officer firing into the vehicle. Our news center spoke with an eyewitness who was at the scene. We have concealed her identity for her protection.
The police jeep come, then park up right here. Right? When they park up right here, when Buja drive out now, then turn the vehicle cross the road. When they turn the vehicle cross the road, Buja them a stop. The police said to him, say, give me a license. Buja give me a foreign license. When Buja give me a foreign license, he say, no want that. He want a Jamaican license. Buja turn on to him and tell him, say, boss, I don't have the money yet to do it. I have to take care of my pitney them first. But I know say I can't use this. And police stopped me the other day and me use it and then I say, no.
The eyewitness said Miss Bulgin later exited the vehicle and told the officer to just issue her a ticket. She said the officer remained adamant that the vehicle would be seized.
Buju say, well, me take it careful now and take it. You know, say after Buju didn't know, have his phone and look for the papers work. He tell Buju say, come out of the car, lock off the car. You know, so as Buju lock off the car, like he can never lock off or nothing. Or in no park or nothing. But just like lucky car, you know, so you can't go move one look away. Right? It's not like the Buju go drive off or nothing because he know Buju and he know where Buju live. Anyway, after that now, me see man just give Buju one shot and Buju hold in chest and just drop back so.
In the meantime, citizens have also questioned the way in which Miss Bulgin's body was handled after she was shot. CCTV footage showed her body being dragged from the vehicle onto the road after the shooting. She was then thrown into the back of a police vehicle. The policeman involved has since been removed from active duty, and the incident has once again brought the use of lethal force and the absence of body-worn cameras during police operations into sharp focus. Executive Director of Human Rights Lobby Group Jamaicans for Justice, Michael Jackson, says the fatal shooting raises serious questions about the use of lethal force and risks being perceived as extrajudicial. While expressing alarm at the increase in police fatal shootings, Ms. Jackson noted that the swift action of the police high command to remove the officer from active duty underscores the critical importance of body-worn cameras. Additionally, opposition spokesperson on national security, Fitz Jackson, has also called for a transparent and independent investigation into the shooting, lamenting that the removal of the officer from active duty is not enough to repair what he describes as a growing breakdown in trust between citizens and the police. 15 people have been killed by the security forces so far for the month of May. According to data from the Independent Commission of Investigations, 131 people have been shot and killed by the security forces so far this year. Cameron White for All Angle.
Okay, well, let's pick up at the point at which Ms. Bulgin was taken from her vehicle and taken by the police officers and put in their vehicle. And Dr. Ricketts, I'm going to bring you in here because this is what a lot of people have been saying. What on earth was that? And I'm going to start from the position that we don't know that Ms. Bulgin was dead at that point because I don't know that there was anybody on the scene who could say that. So let me ask you to pick up there in terms of what you saw and what your issues or concerns were, if any.
What I saw was disturbing, to say the least, and it particularly had to do with how it is that the body was transferred from where the incident took place to the vehicle that she was put in. And it really looked very callous. It looked, an absolute contempt for life, the way that she was handled. And literally, she seemed to have been moved like a piece of livestock. Now, as it relates to the medical aspects of it, firstly, the police, even with their limited first aid training, and they do have some training in the field, but they are not qualified or equipped to declare somebody dead. They're not able to make that assessment. In the absence of that assessment, it must mean that every move that takes place from here to hospital must be geared at trying to save this person's life, because we don't know. So whatever small chance it is that she had of survival, I don't believe it would have been helped by the way she was transported.
What should have happened?
Well, basic emergency medicine will tell you that there are certain things that you do. You try to establish an airway, make sure that she's breathing, and try to gain control of making sure that her circulation is in order. But for all of that to happen, the assessment must be made as to where the injury is, what kind of an injury, and how best to move her in a manner that is not going to worsen the situation that she's in. If it is a chest injury, as I understand it was, a gunshot to the chest, there are, the considerations of whether or not there's bleeding going on in the chest, that kind of thing that can affect our cardiac activity. All of that is going on all at the same time. And there's no such assessment. So the way that she was carried, and while I understand that it's a heavy body and it was 2 policemen that was carrying, because I think somebody did make that point, it's a difficult job to move her, but it was way suboptimal in terms of trying to secure her airway, making sure that she's in a position that she can breathe properly, all of that.
Let me go into that, though, because when you speak of assessment, again, you make the point that as far as we know, there weren't doctors at the scene.
Correct.
So what could or should they have done by way of assessment?
I think the first thing that should have been done is that an ambulance should have been called. While all of this is going on, somebody should have made that call. Whether the ambulance is going to be able to get there in time, yes or no, and I think that is the point that has been made, that there was no ambulance, so this is the way that she had to be transported. it's a difficult situation all around, and how it is that a policeman is going to make that assessment with their basic training, I don't know. I just don't see that happening. So, it really went down a road that really is regrettable.
So when you speak about things like looking at bleeding and trying to ensure she's breathing and her airway is not obstructed and so on, again, is that something that you can do with whether basic or advanced first aid training, not being a doctor?
There are people that are trained in that kind of situation. The emergency personnel that work in the ambulances, etc., they have that training. And the first thing you're going to try to do is get control to make sure there is no obstruction to the breathing, make sure the person is breathing, check to see if there's a pulse, etc., etc. None of that, from what I understand, was done.
Okay. So in terms of the transport now, because again, go back to the ambulance point, because I know a lot of Jamaicans have been in this position.
Right.
Maybe not a gunshot wound, but somebody is ill, and what you want to do is get them to the hospital as soon as possible. You don't want to risk waiting for an ambulance, because in our situation it may or may not come, and it may or may not have any equipment in it when it comes.
Right.
So if they had decided, no, okay, we're going to move her, we're going to transport her to hospital, you said what you saw was suboptimal, meaning not what it should.
Well, she was being grasped by both feet and arms, right? So her body is now in this natural arc because that's how she was being carried. In an emergency situation, one of the things you want to do is to put the person on a flat surface, because that is now going to be able to sort of help her in her ability to, or the attempts to breathe. That certainly wasn't done. Being able to, secure her neck, etc., none of this is done. So the way that it was done, it just looked to me as if there was no concern for whether she was alive or not. And that for me is a problem.
And when you speak of securing her neck, what do you mean?
If it was a multiple trauma situation, which it wasn't, it really was one gunshot,
right.
You want to make sure that her neck is immobilized, to make sure that if there are any other injuries that are going to take place as a result of that. And you don't know. You don't know if this gunshot had to do with a spinal injury when it went in. So you really want to be able to immobilize the spine and all of these things all at the same time.
To try to prevent
further injury,
damage or a paralysis. Correct. If that's going to be a situation.
Correct.
All right. I want to ask a couple more questions, but we're at the break, so let's go to the break, do a little bit of business, we'll soon come.